I'm here with Dr. Mark Hyman. He's the founder of the UltraWellness Center. He is the author of 11 New York Times bestsellers. I'm going to write more.
Oh, yeah, I'm working on it.
And he's a world-renowned physician. Thank you so much for being here, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
So, how did you originally get into the medical field? What inspired you?
Well, I was studying Buddhism, believe it or not, in college, and took a class called The Medicine Buddha, and began to understand the nature of sort of spirituality and healing as connected. And I wanted to be a monk or a rabbi, and figured out it was probably not a great career choice. So I decided to go into medicine because it was a way of serving, and I believed that the ideal, and I still do that we're here in contribution.
Yeah, and healthcare is one of the great topics in America and globally right now. If you were the president of the United States, what's the first thing you would do to change the healthcare system?
I'd fix the food system because the food system is driving the healthcare crisis. 11 million people around the world die from lifestyle-related chronic disease. That's diet alone. In this country, we have 1 in 2 Americans who's sick with a chronic disease. 1 in 2 people have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, 70% overweight. To paraphrase Bill Clinton, it's the food, stupid. And if you don't deal with the food that's driving disease, you're never going to fix the healthcare system. So it's really addressing the inputs, and that addresses so many factors across society, from chronic disease to the economic burden. 1 in 3 Medicare dollars is spent on diabetes, and it's racking up our $22 trillion federal debt. We're seeing the consequences in social justice, poverty, violence, poor educational outcomes, national security, because our population is being fed a diet that's affecting their brains, their health, their bodies, their communities, and more importantly, it's affecting climate change. So how we grow food and how we produce food and how we consume food are all driving this huge crisis, and it's all connected by food. So to fix the healthcare system, you have to have an integrated set of policies, and I would probably establish a national food policy with a policy advisor, maybe change the name of the USDA to the Health, Food, and Well-Being Department, which is not serving the interests of big ag and big food. And I think these are, as a doctor, what I've come to understand are the real issues, because I can sit in my office all day treating diabetics, but if I don't figure out why they got that way and how to fix it, and that it's not their fault, the problem's not going away.
There's so much information about what to eat, what not to eat online. How do you know what to trust?
Well, I think it's really important to learn how to be a critical reader of the media and the science. And doctors aren't taught this for the most part. Certainly most nutritionists are. Most government bodies that give dietary recommendations aren't. And here's the real simple answer. There's 2 kinds of studies that are worth looking at. One is population studies, what we call epidemiology, that takes people over long periods of time, follows their behavior, follows their habits, and see if there's a correlation. So if you eat eggs, does it cause heart disease? But it's not really that it causes it, it's a correlation. And most of the nutritional studies we have are correlation studies which do not prove cause and effect. So if I did a study of women over 55 who had sex, I would conclude that sex never leads to pregnancy. The study is 100% accurate, but it's completely invalid. Right? So when we do those kinds of analyses, we see these headlines. Eggs kill people, coconut oil is going to kill you. And people get so confused. Well, you have to begin to look at whether it's a randomized controlled trial or an experiment, which means you take 2 groups of people, you get half of them, one treatment and half of them another treatment, and see how they compare. That's the way you determine what's true or not. And most of us, when we look at a paper, a headline, or a study, aren't thinking about that. We're saying, oh, there's a correlation. And that's the problem. So it takes time to think through that, and it's important, but I would not take every headline as gospel. It's clickbait, and you should be smarter than that.
Yeah, especially because you have to look at who's funding the study.
Right. Well, that's the other problem.
They have a vested interest, and I'm a researcher, so I know this. Well, I get big companies fund studies myself.
Yeah, that's the other problem. You have the nutrition field completely corrupted by the food industry, which pays scientists, writes papers, funds 12 times as much money into research for nutrition that completely confuses the playing field. So if Coca-Cola is doing a study on benefits or the harms of soda and obesity, they're going to conclude 9 times out of 10 that, or maybe 10 times out of 10, that soda's not a problem. And if you look at independent studies, they always show the opposite. So follow the money.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I think a lot of people know what to eat and what not to eat too. Like last time I was out with someone, they're like, what do you eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? I said, an egg white omelet, a salad, vegetables, and fish. And they said, that's so healthy. And then they say, I just, eat pasta and bread. So they know that they're eating unhealthy, but they're unwilling to do something about it. Why do you think that happens?
Well, there's 2 reasons. Some people just don't care, and I've seen those people. And the other thing that people don't realize is that the food choices we make affect our behavior. So we think we're these free will people that just choose voluntarily what we eat. It's far from the truth. 1, there's a toxic food environment that affects our choices and our behaviors. And 2, the food we're eating is highly addictive. The processed foods, the flours, sugars, starches that we eat drive the addiction center in the brain, just like cocaine or heroin, and make you crave, make you eat more, and make you hungry. So if you think you're doing this out of your will, you're fooling yourself. There was a great study last month that looked at people who were basically locked up in a hospital for a month. 20 people they locked up in a hospital. This is a multi-million-dollar study because it takes a lot to do this. Half of them, they all got, for 2 weeks, a whole foods diet. They had then a processed food diet for 2 weeks. Now the diets were identical. Calories, protein, carbs, fat, fiber, and so forth. And they were allowed to eat as much as they wanted of that food. So when the group ate the processed food, they ate 500 calories more a day and they gained 2 pounds in 2 weeks. When they switched to the whole foods diet, they lost 2 pounds and they ate 500 less calories. Now, they could eat as much as they want. It's because their choices were driven by the biochemistry, by the hormones, by the brain chemistry that was driving their behavior. So what I say to people is when you think you're making these choices out of your own free will, you're being hijacked by the food industry.
Yeah, something I always say to my friends is if you have good habits now, eating habits especially, you're going to carry that to when you're older. It's harder to change habits as you get older. Do you agree with that or not?
I think it's hard for people to change, but there are 2 things that have been shown to be effective in changing behavior. One is connecting with purpose. What is the meaning and purpose of what you do and why you do it? Are you wanting to show up and give your contribution to the world, to be a better husband, father, wife, parent, whatever it is? What is the meaning? Do you want to have a vibrant life? Do you want to feel good? Do you want to do what you want to do? That's important to connect to. And the second thing is friends. So we know that friend power is more powerful than willpower in changing your behavior. We know that your zip code is a more important determinant of your health than your genetic code. And that using friend power instead of willpower is much more effective in determining your habit change. So if you're hanging out with a bunch of people who are eating McDonald's every day and sitting around watching TV and drinking beer, you're more likely to be overweight. And if all your friends, have yoga mats and drink green juice every day, you're more likely to be healthy. And it's just how it goes.
How do you structure your day so you're getting enough sleep, you're eating healthy, you're taking everything into account? Because it seems like, especially for someone who's just starting out and trying to break negative habits or bad habits, where do they start? Is it one habit at a time?
Yeah, I think it's first connecting to the why is really important, and then connecting to the how. And it's a skill like anything else. I can cook 3 meals a day from scratch, whole foods, in 30 minutes total for all 3 meals. But it's a skill. I learned how to incorporate exercise into my life and structure my day so that I can do the things I want and work. And I woke up this morning and meditated. Today I'm not going to exercise, but I know tomorrow I'm going to exercise because I have a busy day today. I know I planned a meditation session this afternoon, and I control what I'm eating and where I'm going. So it's really about skill development and learning how to practice those skills that help sustain you and actually invigorate you over time.
How does profession impact what you eat? Meaning that if you're always working in an office, there might not be a lot of food choices. Should someone bring their own food? And then you know, if you do have good food, then you can eat healthier throughout the day. Maybe if you're working from home and you can more or less self-manage and cook. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's really the environment that determines much of our actions, behavior, and food choices. So if you're in a toxic food environment, it's very hard to do the right thing. So you have to be especially proactive about maybe making food for the week and bringing it to work, or having a good sense of how you're going to navigate your food environment. Most people don't plan for food. They just get hungry and then they go find something to eat, and it's a food emergency, and they're always going to make the wrong choice, right? So if you're going on a trip trekking up the Himalayas, you're going to make sure you have the right boots and the right backpack and a sleeping bag, and you're going to have the right medications with you, and you're going to just plan that trip. We are on this trip of life that we completely abdicate responsibility for in terms of our health and don't plan our food. So every day, it's just become a habit. I have in my head exactly what I'm going to do for each meal. Not necessarily what I'm going to eat, but where I can go. If I'm in a neighborhood, I know how to hunt and gather in that neighborhood. If I have stuff at home, I know how to forage for things at home. And it's a skill, again, but it's something you can learn.
The World Health Organization came out and said that burnout is an occupational phenomenon recently. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to prevent burnout, and is food part of that?
You know, it's interesting. You know, mental health issues are rampant. In fact, in terms of overall effect on quality of life, it's the number one health burden around the world, and also cost burden in terms of productivity and lack of ability to be engaged in a society as an active member. The solution, in part, is figuring out how to connect mental health with those behaviors that generate mental health or associate from the behaviors that cause ill health in the brain. And food, again, is probably one of the biggest drivers of cognitive function, of mood, of energy, and people don't understand that. Obviously, exercise is very powerful in terms of rejuvenation, regeneration, sleep. We're a sleep-deprived nation. All those things are just super simple building blocks. If you just focus on eat, sleep, and exercise, and figure out how to dial those in, not necessarily perfectly every day, but for the most part, it makes a huge difference. My nephew, for example, was having bouts of depression and lethargy and couldn't function and was not doing well. And it turned out he was really up late. He wasn't exercising. He couldn't function. So I said, I want you to vigorously exercise every day this week. And he's like completely turned around. Right. So I think people don't understand the connection between their mind and their body in the reverse order. In other words, we know about the mind-body effect, but we don't know about the body-mind effect. And so in the docu-series that I created, The Broken Brain, we really delve into how to fix your brain by fixing your body first.
There's so much technology entering the healthcare field right now. What do you think the relationship with technology and doctors will be in the future? Will there even be doctors? Will it just be technology?
I think there'll always be a human element because human biology is so complex. But I think that the amount of data that we hold, our microbiome, our genome, our proteome, our metabolome, all the biomarkers that most doctors aren't looking at. You go to the doctor, you get 20 tests, 30 tests, 50 tests, if he's a fancy doctor. There are literally tens of thousands of things that you can measure in any one person or more every single day, and having that data analyzed by a doctor is just impossible, given the speed of medical advance. There's 900,000 scientific papers published every year, so good luck if you're going to keep up with literature. But AI can do that, and I think connecting AI with HI, artificial intelligence with human intelligence, is really the future of healthcare.
Completely agree. What's your best piece of career advice?
My best piece of career advice is figure out what you love to do and do it and put in the 10,000 hours.
And what's the first step to making that happen?
Connecting with what you want in life and what matters to you and what will get you up and excited every day.
Is that a process of experimentation? Testing a lot of things?
It's a process of self-reflection and self-knowledge and awareness. So who are you? What matters to you? What do you love? What do you care about? Get you excited, and just go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Hyman.
Sure.